We're here at Jazz Live San Diego with Roberta Donnay. Roberta, welcome to Jazz Live San Diego.
Thanks, Vince.
So you're supposedly bringing in the Prohibition Mob Band today, which was a band that I believe was featured on your last release, Little Sugar, correct?
Yes, it is. That's
correct. Tell us a little bit about the Prohibition Mob Band.
Well, let's see. They're mobsters. They're very dangerous. You can't have any direct eye contact with them. You have to be very careful around them. The Prohibition started in 1920, went through 1933, and the music that we're featuring is the 20s and 30s, kind of obscure. Some songs people may recognize, but I'd say a lot of obscure songs from that era, very on the people side, you know, not on the real cutesy side of stuff. And there were a lot of women at that time who were really big stars. And, you know, the gramophone came out in 1920, and the first jazz record, actually the gramophone was probably before that, but the first jazz record was recorded in 1920, I heard. So that's how that happened.
So you haven't always been affiliated with this kind of music. You've done singer-songwriter types of things and moved into jazz, and now some people call this proto-jazz, before jazz era, but how did you get involved with this music?
I have no idea. No. Actually, I started in jazz. When I was 5, I was singing jazz. I was listening to the radio, and I listened to Louis Armstrong, and I listened to Billie Holiday, and so I was actually in jazz, and I had my first gig at 5, and I was singing 20s music, like back then. So that was the music I actually listened to as a child in D.C. However, I had to make a living, so when I came out to San Francisco, I was singing Dixieland jazz first, and I was in a bunch of bands like that. But I was tired of making $50 a night, and I wanted to make, you know, a little bit more. And I was a very serious songwriter, and I really actually didn't think I was a very good singer. And I didn't think I was good enough to be a, you know, like a singer. So
like some of those idols that you had, like
well, yeah,
Billie
I mean,
Holiday,
you know, Ella, and you know, I mean, why bother? So I kept writing songs and you know, getting kind of attention from songwriting, and started writing for film and TV, and did singer-songwriter tours and stuff like that. And I would bring my songs to LA in like a suitcase, knock on doors, and those guys would go like, "Yeah, we like your song, but who's the singer?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." I was really shy.
Really? You didn't record demos of your own tunes?
No, we are talking about that. I'm just saying, when they asked me who the singer was, I just went, "Yeah, I don't know." I wasn't, in other words, I wasn't putting myself out there as the singer. And I was more interested in recording other people singing my songs than I was myself. But it just so happened that I didn't know. I ended up, you know, over the years making a living more as a singer. And you know, I don't know how those things happen. I thought they were crazy to pay me to sing. You know, I realized, like, are you sure? You know.
Well, I had been reading about some of your previous writing, and found that you had written a tune, One World, that was originally written and performed for the United Nations 50th anniversary, and then has been performed many times since then. What a privilege to have you here, and having written something like that. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, thank you. That was an amazing gift from the universe. I don't even know how to explain it, but I was I practiced as a Buddhist in a Buddhist organization, and part of an NGO, part of the United Nations, and actually they told me that they were going to write an original show. In 94, they wrote it, and then it was going to be performed. Actually, they did a pre-celebration in 94, and then the real celebration started in 95. And so I wrote a song as an intro, and then they asked me to expand it and write for the outro, you know, and it became the finale, and then it went on in 95 to be performed. And actually, we performed it for Rosa Parks, who visited San Francisco. So I heard children's choirs singing it, and I had no idea, but that song ended up having a life of its own. And it actually went to Japan, and some people brought it to Japan, and there was an orchestra there that toured it first. So like 10,000 people heard that, and it started being used at World Peace Conferences and things. And then, you know, I got calls to send it to Vietnam, and they wanted it in Italy, and then pretty soon we recorded, I got back and we recorded a single in '98, but it took all that time.
Wow, wow.
And then it was picked for the theme for the World AIDS Day in South Africa.
Well,
So,
yeah, that was a fantastic little tidbit to read about you there.
Thank you.
Getting back to your current music and A Little Sugar and your performance here tonight at Jazz Live San Diego, you don't have the whole mob band with you tonight. I saw a couple of great San Diego musicians on your list tonight too. Tell us who's playing with you tonight.
Wow, tonight we have the fabulous Justin Grinnell on bass, who's from San Diego, and we have the fabulous Danny Green, who's, I think, played here with his own group many times on piano, and he's also from San Diego, and Michael Barcimanto, who's our drummer, and also the drummer on this CD, he's out of LA, and Rich Armstrong, who is our cornet trumpet player out of San Francisco, and then there's me.
So was this band, the Prohibition Mob Band, something that you said that you had been singing Dixieland and some traditional styles? Were some of the musicians that you played with, did they come into this Prohibition Mob Band, kind of evolve with you to focusing in on this era of music?
You know, I actually wanted to do a project with just my friends, and so that's how it started. I called Sam Bevan, who's a really good friend of mine, who's a great bass player, and asked him if he would develop some tunes with me, and we were already playing together, and all these guys I played with for years and years and years. So John Arbor is a really old friend of mine, piano player on that, and Wayne Wallace produced actually my very first CD back in '89, and then we brought in Sheldon Brown, who I'd never played with before, and Rich Armstrong, who I knew. Actually, Rich was on the UN 50 with me.
Oh, excellent.
That's when I met him, actually. So we all did different music projects together over the years, and I just had a feeling that those guys together, and sure enough, Sam and I started writing the arrangements together, and I did most of the research myself, actually, and then I'd search for arrangement ideas and then bring them to him, and he would write some stuff, then we'd get together again and we'd rework it. And he wrote the horns, the horn parts. We actually have 3 horns on the record, and it's all done live, so that's a live album. And we did it old school. And then Wayne came in and arranged 2 of the songs on this record, and one on the next record. We actually recorded 2 records at the same time, so we did 26 songs in 3 days.
So will that be kind of the follow-up to Little Sugar?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Plans for that to come out?
Yes, and I'm on Motema Music outside of New York City. It's a great label out of Harlem, and yeah, I'm hoping it will come out, you know, before March of 2014.
Mm-hmm. So this type of music is kind of a niche within a niche, and so I was reading that you were kind of surprised at the response that you got from your audience when you started performing this music, that there was a really good response back. What do you attribute that to? Why people were attracted to what you were doing with this music?
You know, I never understand how people pick or like things, but I like them. I mean, I went for what I really like, and I realized at some point, you know, if I'm going to be a musician and I should just have fun. I mean, that was my goal, actually, was just to have as much fun as possible. And I'm really not a very serious, you know, jazz artist. I mean, I just don't think of myself that way. I think other people probably do, but I just don't think of myself that way. I just think of myself, you know, up there trying to have fun and really engaging the audience and really involving them, and really, this was a music back then of the people. This was before jazz became very, you know, intellectual. And I've never been a real intellectual, so I totally am don't get me wrong, I'm a big bebop fan, and I love all jazz. I love modern jazz. But I wanted to educate, my goal was really to educate the audiences, and especially the young people. And I thought, you know, how best to do that was to go back to the basics, back to the beginning. And really, this is the beginning before jazz became jazz. It's almost like blues going into jazz. This is before standards were written. So it's kind of weird, like the way the song structure is. Sometimes, you know, you come in off the solo, and there's 3 more verses, which you would never hear that in a standard.
Right.
So, but there's, you know, incredible writers on this, like Hoagy Carmichael There's an Irving Berlin song on here, and of course there's Ma Rainey and Bessie Smith and Sippy Wallace, and Louis Armstrong's just my hero. So anything that he was on, any time I hear Louis Armstrong, that's it for me. I think of these guys as my ancestors, actually.
You talked a little bit, I was reading about how the attitudes of the women of that day, and you just even mentioned that there were some great women of that day, that your attitudes are almost more in tune to the women of that day than many of the women of today. What is the difference that you kind of, what's the affinity you found with them?
I think I'm kind of bitchy, not wanting to take any, crap from anybody, that kind of thing. And I think the women back then, they were it was a very oppressive society for women. But in the 20s, of course, the flapper era started, and the flappers came out as young women, and they were drinking, they were smoking, and they were cussing, and they were cutting their hair real short. And I found out the reason for that was that the men went away in World War I, and the women started working, and so there were no men around, so that's how that all came to be. But yeah, I did really resonate with those women, and I think it's because, especially the black women, African American women then, they couldn't say very much in society, but boy, they could say it in a song. And it really did, and they really let loose, and those were strong, strong women. You can imagine, like, traveling in a boxcar and setting up a tent, and going out marching through the streets and bringing people back in. And Bessie Smith, chased a whole Ku Klux Klan down the street one day, and got rid of them. I mean, one woman, that's a big deal to me.
So you see this music as empowering even today, women today, even though it seems like it's music from a bygone era.
I've always felt very inspired by young women standing up for themselves, and I really hope, as a byproduct of this project, that young women will stand up for themselves more and really investigate how they truly feel. Because I think when people tell the truth of who they are, it saves a lot of time.
Right.
And hopefully, it saves a lot of future suffering. And if I can, have any part in that, then I would really appreciate that.
Excellent. Well, we talked about that follow-up to Little Sugar. That's to a Little Sugar that's already in the can and will be coming out, I guess, in the next year or so. What other things do you work on? Is this kind of your main thing right now, this type of music, or are you doing other things?
Well, I've been on the road for the last 8 years as part of Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks. I'm the lickette in that band. I play percussion, sing, and dance in that band. And of course, Dan Hicks is a kind of icon figure, fantastic American songwriter, and so he has a cult following, and I have a great time in that band. And then I actually I'm on hold to produce 2 other artists. I do produce other acts, and I also am writing, projects still for film and TV when I can. And what else? I help young artists as much as I can, and I'm working on a marketing thing for artists right now, like a guerrilla marketing plan for them to get out there. And yeah, because a lot of artists, and especially jazz musicians, just the musicians themselves don't know how to promote themselves, and they don't realize it's a business. I mean, they learn music, and they learn it really well, but they don't know, how to, say, hey,
Here I am, because no one else is doing that anymore for them. For the most part, it's them and then their fans that they reach.
Yeah.
That they reach.
Yeah, and for me, I love my fans. I love anybody that loves music. So, in general, and especially jazz, really appreciate that. So, yeah, I just want to reach those people and put everybody together. So, yeah, I love helping other artists, and it's very interesting to me. I also help other songwriters.
Excellent. Well, where can people find out more information about you and what you've got going on? I'm sure you have some presence in the internets and
yeah, that
elsewhere.
wasn't invented yet. So
oh, that's right.
No, they can go to. I have a website called www.robertadonnay.com, and it's like Chardonnay, spelled like Chardonnay.
So spell that for folks so that they know.
ROBERTADONNAY. And then they can also go to Motema. I have a lot of videos out on YouTube. And if they go to Motema, it's motema.com. That's the record label. And motema.com, they can do that. And then if they go to YouTube, Motema/Roberta Donnay, and all the videos will come up. There's a 5-part series right now behind the music. And you'll see all the musicians are being interviewed. A bunch of people. Dan Hicks is being interviewed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we're really excited to have you here, and again, welcome to Jazz Live San Diego.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, Vince. We love being here.
Great. Let's do an ID real quick, Roberta, if you don't mind.